Prime Minister, last night you waved off a question on Donald Trump's mobile phone. With regard to the phone, hasn't it been the case that in recent weeks you haven't been able to get on that phone? Whilst we mightn't expect you to have it on speed dial, isn't your failure to be able to ring up Donald Trump and say, wait on a minute, a failure of government?
Not at all. And, I don't have Donald Trump's number. I didn't have Joe Biden's number. It's not the way it works between the Australian Prime Minister and the US President. There are formal processes take place. I've had 2 very warm conversations with President Trump.
A question for Canberra. ACT Chief Minister Andrew Barr says the Coalition's plan to cut 41,000 public servants from Canberra would mean a prolonged depression for the area and surrounding suburbs. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think it's a bit overblown?
No, you bet it would. It would have more, I won't say more importantly, it would have a devastating impact on Canberra. But I tell you what I'm more worried about, the impact it would have on Australians, the impact it would have on Australian veterans who would go back to waiting, and in some cases the men and women in uniform who've served our country not getting their entitlements. I tell you the impact it would have on our defence and national security, because there are around 68,000 public servants in Canberra. 41,000, you get rid of them. Where does he think Services Australia runs its central offices from to provide support for Australians in emergency funding after there's been a natural disaster? Where does he think the people who run our pension system work? Where does he think on national security, ASIO, ASIS, the Australian Security Intelligence Service, the Department of Defence, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Australian Signals Directorate that work on cyber security issues? Where does he think these people are? I'll give him the hint. When he goes from Parliament House to go off to the airport where he wants to be able to fly to his home in Kirribilli House, the building that's in front of him in Russell is full of Canberra public servants. The buildings to the left, not breaking secrets here, ASIO. I've been to all of them. I would suspect that he's been perhaps to some of them. I'm not sure where he thinks Operation Sovereign Borders runs from, but it doesn't run from Gosford, with respect to Gosford. It runs from Canberra. This would have a devastating impact on gutting the capacity of the Australian government to serve the Australian people. And it's just one example of how they are just unfit. You know, he has had 3 years to prepare for an election. What I did as opposition leader for 3 years was doing the first budget reply, childcare, fully costed. We've now implemented that. The Housing Australia Future Fund, announced in a budget reply, funded, a plan to go forward. This mob changed their minds on a day-to-day basis. And I'll make this point. We do live in an uncertain world. In an uncertain world where there is volatility, the last thing you need is a volatile government that can't agree on its own positions on a day-to-day basis, that thinks that getting angry and muscling up is the way that you engage in diplomacy, that is prepared to verbal leaders of other countries or the head of the Reserve Bank. You know, this mob are just not ready for government, and I hope that that is seen by Australians in the lead up to Saturday's election.